We all know that communication skills are crucial for any relationship. And when somebody has those skills, oh my gosh, they make so much of an impression to you and to me. But we've also had those moments where we're really nervous to talk with people because we don't know how our request or our message will be received. Well, this podcast, fortunately, is going to go over all the things, the science, the tips, the tricks, and the ways to make sure that you can have the best relationships that you can through the way that you communicate. And after listening to these episodes, you can do so fearlessly with confidence, knowing that you can be relatable to anybody you choose. Welcome to the Attractive Relationships Podcast. So how can you take the sting out of feeling rejected? It's something that we've all felt from time to time, and it's one of the things that makes people most fearful when talking to people in a variety of settings. This podcast is going to teach you not only how to take the sting out of rejection, but it will also kind of impact the attractive persuasion and attractive communication principles that will allow you to give yourself the confidence that you need in a variety of situations to get the best chance of the other person saying yes instead of giving you rejection. So let's get into it. Now, first of all, if you've ever asked for somebody's time or their advice or for their money, you can know that that can be very awkward. And when people try to give advice on how to ask for those things, it's usually done very poorly, if it's even done at all. And when people do teach it, they might say, here, use these magical phrase or this magical question, or you arrange words in this way, and you're more likely to get them to say yes. Or they might say, you just need to be very direct and blunt and don't beat around the bush. Just rip the Band-Aid off and ask what you need to ask for. And the thing about those kinds of advice is that they're not necessarily wrong. They can be helpful and they can give you what you need. But there's a better way than just one way. And so when we teach attractive communication through the Fearless and Effective Communicators program, what we teach are principles that you can then mold into the specific situation to the unique individual that you're talking to. So let's unpack this for a bit. I want you to imagine a scenario that I'm sure has happened to you. Somebody came, they called you, or you got a text on your phone, and the question they asked was, hey, are you free this weekend? Right. Or you got a request, you got a question that said, hey, are you busy right now? Do you remember the last time you got a question like that or similar? Now, the question I have for you is, how did you feel when you got that question? Now, if it's somebody that you really liked and you were looking forward to spend time with them, maybe it's a fresh date, fresh somebody in your life, you might have been excited, like, yeah. But outside of that, you might have felt like you're starting to get led into a trap, right? A trap of commitment. Because maybe you started to hold your breath, started to brace yourself, your body started to tense up at whatever their next request was going to be based off of how you answered, right? And the reason is because we know if somebody says, hey, are you free this weekend? Or are you busy right now? If we say, no, I'm not busy right now, or in fact, I am free this weekend. If we say that, their next request might be something that we don't want to be a part of. And that's why we get a little hesitant. We start to feel trapped. But this is how most people ask for time from other people, or for their money, or for their advice, is they ask questions like this that make the other person feel trapped and defensive. So what do you say? Oh, well, I kind of have plans, assuming that you don't have plans. I kind of have plans. Oh, I may be busy. Or you might just straight up lie. Like, yeah, I am busy. Just to give us that little bit of protection to not feel trapped. And yet, this is how we also talk to others. When we want somebody's time, we're going to ask the same questions because this is how we've been taught. This goes back to when I said if we're asking people's time, we're poorly taught, if taught at all, on how to ask for it. And being direct and honest may not necessarily be the best way to get a yes of the other person. So, what do we do? What do we do instead? Well, the principles of attractive communication, there are three. There's really four, but there's three that I usually talk about on this podcast. And that's leading with curiosity, adding clarity in both what you say and what you hear. And there's a third one, that's being courteous. But for this context, we're going to talk more about empathy. Empathy. So let's use an example. Let's say you are interested in asking for somebody's time because you wanted to try a new restaurant. You just didn't want to go by yourself. Instead of asking the question, hey, are you busy this weekend? What is a better way to start the conversation using the principles of attractive communication, particularly the principles of curiosity and clarity and empathy? Well, we're still curious, so maybe instead of immediately asking about their time and how they're using it, we might say, hey, have you heard about this new barbecue restaurant or this new burger joint? They're supposed to have the best burgers in town according to Yelp. All right. Have you heard about it? And they might say, no, I've never heard about this restaurant. All right. And so right there, you kind of led with a little bit of curiosity, which is awesome, because now instead of focusing on their time that they're probably willing to protect because it's precious to them, we're talking about something that's interesting. And what's also cool about that is because you led with curiosity, you can see and kind of gauge their level of interest. All right. So that's how you can lead with curiosity. Now you can add a little bit of clarity to it. All right. You can say something like, I plan on going to this restaurant. I really want to go. I don't want to really go by myself. So now you've declared your intention and you still haven't asked for their time. Not yet. We can add a layer of empathy, right? While you could right then and there ask for their time and say, hey, I would love if you're able to come with me. And you can still do that, but you might say, hey, I know you're a busy person. You may have plans going on this weekend. That's the empathy part. Now ask your request. However, if you can, I would love for you to join me this weekend. Now, it may seem like a lot of steps, but depending on what you're asking for, or really anything you're asking for, you take the extra 30 seconds it takes to do those steps. I'm talking about literally 30 seconds. And it will exponentially increase their likelihood of saying yes to you, and also not be annoyed that you asked. Why would they not be annoyed? Because you asked it in a way that intrigued them, made them curious and maybe desirous of what you were asking for. You also did it in a way that didn't make them feel trapped. All right? Hey guys, real quick, I am sure that all of us have had the moments where we're a little nervous or afraid to talk to somebody because we don't know how they're going to respond. Are we going to be able to talk to our life partner without them getting upset? Or are we going to talk to our boss to get that raise or that interview for that job? If we ever get nervous in those moments, we have to fearlessly communicate in a way that's effective to get the things we want and need. And if you want to know how to consistently do that, there's a formula and a program on exactly how to do that. And it's called the Be Fearless and Effective Communicators Program. If you are interested in learning more about that, you can click the link that's in the show notes, or you can go to attractiverelationships.com/fearless. You could do that also in the context of something that's not as fun as going to a new restaurant. Let's say you need help moving from one place to another and you got a lot of heavy furniture and boxes. I don't know anybody that just loves helping their friend move. And even though that may be less common today because we usually just hire movers, still the whole process is just, nobody says, yeah, I can't wait. All right. So let's say you have to ask your friend to help you move. All right. How do you do that? You could still lead with curiosity. He says, hey, the last time you moved, who did you have help you to move? Or how did you find the most efficient way to go about it? All right. That is just one way. Now, I'm not saying this is the only way. I'm not even saying this is the best way. I'm just saying it's better to start this way than it is to just directly ask them, hey, what are you doing this weekend? All right. You might say something to the effect of, hey, did you know that I'm moving soon? Yeah, I found this really cool place down the street, and it's got so many more amenities. Or I'm moving into my first house. Did I tell you about that? Yeah, we close on such and such date. And if they didn't know that, now you've led with that curiosity. There's that intrigue. There's that excitement, right? Now you can follow up with clarity. It's like, man, I really need help moving. And then you immediately follow up with empathy. I also know that helping people move is not the most fun thing to do in the world. If you are not busy on such and such weekend, I would love your help, and I would be eternally grateful if you would help me do this very unpleasant task of helping me move out of my house or helping me pack my boxes. All right. That sounds less threatening, and it sounds less trapping. Now, you got to make sure you do it with the right tone, of course, because we don't want to be like passive aggressive in our tone. But when you lead with curiosity, be very clear what you want to be, and then add a little empathy. If it's a favor that you know is not fun, like asking for money or asking for somebody to help you move, say that out loud. This is a difficult ask. I know nobody wants to help people move. It's hot in the summer, or whatever the case may be. If you know that this is a person with kids and you're asking for their time and their money, maybe say that. Because when you do that, that empathy goes a long way before the ask. So this is just a little bit about how to take the sting out of rejection. If you are able to ask your request or your questions better, you may not have to deal with the rejection, all right? Because they are going to be more inclined to say yes. Now, there is a part 2. So the part 2 to this is like, what's going to happen? Because this is nobody bats 1,000. Somebody will say no at some point. All right. So if you're a sales consultant, if you're talking to your significant other, you can use all the techniques and all the best things in the world, but sometimes the answer is no for a variety of reasons. And when that happens and you feel that sting, what then? How can you reduce that sting so it doesn't feel like it's debilitating, or that it doesn't make you afraid to ask for something else in the future? Well, stay tuned. We're going to talk about that on the next episode of Attractive Relationships. So stay tuned, and I look forward to catching up with you then. As we come to the end of another episode of Attractive Relationships, I want to express my gratitude to you for tuning in. Your support really does mean the world to me. Now, if this episode brought you any value, I would truly appreciate it if you shared this podcast with anyone that you think could benefit from our discussions on effective communication and relationship building. Until next time, remember, great relationships start with great communication. So stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep building those attractive relationships.